try to explain to a new person why a killer is 110. Try to do it. You cannot do it. You legitimately can't do it. When it comes to add-ons, what does Huntress, Wraith, and Pyramid Head all have in common? Well, the answer is nothing. And that's sort of my problem. I noticed this very early into my Dead by Daylight career. Whether it be killer powers, perks, items, add-ons, design, movement, speed, or tear radiuses, there is no pattern. There is no through line. There is no design philosophy. Let's start with add-ons. If you ask anyone who plays video games to describe rarities, they'll pretty much give you the same answer every time. A very generic but straightforward answer that sums it up pretty well. So, very low rarity items are super common. You'll see them all the time, but as a result, the benefits and bonuses they'll give you are very small. And then as you climb up that tier list of rarities, you find them less and less, but they give you stronger and stronger benefits. So we'll hop over here to the Huntress, and we'll kind of try to put that generic design philosophy of add-on rarity into play and see if it fits. And if it doesn't, we'll try to find a through line for her add-ons. So up first, we have a good example to just use for across all of the rarities is the Bandaged Half, the halved add-on. So this decreases the throw cooldown by 10%. It's a brown add-on. You can see it says common. So naturally, you would go to the uncommon add-ons and you would expect to find a higher rarity version, which of course you do. You have the Oak Halved, decreases the hatchet throw cooldown by 20%. And then you would go to the rare rarity and you would expect to find the same thing, but you actually don't. You find exhaustion for 5 seconds, reloading 20% faster, winding up 10% faster, throw speed by 20%, right? So no halved Bandage Half add-on, Oak Half, nothing. You go up to the next one just to check, and again, for add-ons, no halved, no recovery, no cooldown. So you might be thinking, okay, so it's not just simple stat boosts, it's just what's stronger, right? So this just so happens to fall in line. 10% isn't a whole lot, 20% is more, so it's just stronger. So you go up to the rare rarity above the green and you expect all these add-ons to be stronger, but that's just not true at all. Deerskin Gloves decreases time to reload by 20%, which is far and away weaker than being able to recover from throws 20% faster. And you're like, okay, maybe it's like a unique add-on type thing, but you go to the Flower Babushka, no, it's winding up faster, Rose Root, throwing faster. So it's not unique at all, and it's not even stronger. And then you go up to the very rare just to check, and this is where we start getting to the more unique area, right? The Wooden Fox, undetectable for 30 seconds, the Glowing Concoction, 5 seconds of aura reveal, and then you kind of get to the weaker, boring add-on, the Begrimed Head, which is slowing their healing by 25%, which you have as a rare add-on as well. So they do the same thing essentially. And then again, you get the Infantry Belt, Hatchet hits grant 3% haste for 5 seconds, which is very weak. This is a brown level add-on, so okay, it's not strength related. You check the ultra rare add-ons just to see, and you have a one-shot iridescent ultra rare hatchet head. Okay, limits you to 1. That is strong, right? But then you get the Soldier's Pooty, and you're wondering, what? The Huntress moves at 4.6 when she has no hatchets. So she's a 4.4 killer. She moves at 110. When she's out of hatchets, she moves at 115. So for about 10 seconds of the whole entire match time, you're going to be moving at 115. This isn't worth an ultra rare. This isn't worth a very rare. This isn't worth a rare. This isn't worth an uncommon. At best, it's worth a common slot. It should be base kit. That's how bad it is. And you're like, okay, well, wow, what is... I literally cannot find the through line. You know, there is no through line. You think, okay, higher rarity, stronger. Well, that's not true. Higher rarity, more of an increase in a percentage. Well, that's not true because it stops like a quarter of the way through. You go, the higher the rarity, the more unique. And I guess that's a little true. But even then, it's still not that true because we have duplicates of trash items already. And then you go over to somebody like the Wraith expecting to see the same thing that Huntress has on his add-ons, but that's not true at all. Because you get to the Wraith and you have the Windstorm Mud add-on. Increases his movement speed while cloaked by 5%. Okay, then you go to the rares, increases movement speed while cloaked by 7%. And then you go to the very rare, increases movement speed while cloaked by 9%. So now you actually do have the generic default increased rarity, increased number across the board. And then you get to his ultra rares and they do something completely different. So it seems like the theme for the ultra rares is supposed to be unique and strong, except for it's lacking the strong. I guess it is unique, but it's just there's no commonality, right? There's nothing, there's no through line. It's just kind of all over the place because these two killers have completely different design philosophies, right? Totally different design philosophies. And then you get to Pyramid Head, who just got his add-on rework, and you look at his add-ons, and there's none of that at all. He's not like Huntress in any way. He's not like Wraith in any way. You have a bunch of unique add-ons that all do a bunch of unique things with a few generic stat boosters here, like increases the range by 5%, you know, nothing crazy. But you got a bunch of unique things like sending a survivor to a cage of atonement. You see their aura for 8 seconds, a lot of aura reading, increases the duration of punishment of the damned and things like that. So again, a few more little generic stat boosters, increases or decreases tear radius for each survivor who's tormented. You got your ultra rares that are very strong and do very unique things. And then you got your rares that are also pretty solid that do very unique things. So it's like, what is the through line here? What is the unique thing? What is the common thing that ties them all together? And honestly, when it comes to design philosophy for add-ons, the only thing that ties them together is the colors. That's it. Every killer has 2 ultra rares. Every killer has 4 rares. Every killer has 4 very rares. Every killer has 5 rares. Every killer has 5, uncommons. Every killer has 20 add-ons. That is the only thing that they have in common. And then you move on to something like, say, killer movement speed. So you can see here Huntress is 4.4. She's a 110 killer. And just go ahead, use your brain right now. Think about your friend, like maybe a friend you're trying to put on to Dead by Daylight, and they're playing against the Huntress, and they're like, man, she seems slow. And you're like, oh yeah, she's a 110 killer. Try to explain to them, when they ask, why is she 110? Try to explain to a new person why a killer is 110. Try to do it. You cannot do it. You legitimately can't do it. Let's go through some reasons you might try to give. Oh, well, she's 110 because ranged killers are 110. Well, except for that's not true at all because Trickster is a ranged killer and he's 115. And for some reason, he's super short. I guess he's on his knees barking for the Huntress or something like that. And then you look at Hag and Spirit, and these killers are 110, and they're not ranged killers at all. They're M1 killers, essentially. Like, yes, they have movement abilities, but they're still M1 killers who have to abide by pallets. And then you might think, well, they would be too strong if they were 115. But then you look at Blight. Blight is 115, and he's like the absolute strongest killer in the game. You have Krausu, who's 115. One of the absolute strongest killers in the game. You have Kaneki, who's 115, one of the absolute strongest killers in the game. And so that doesn't really work out either. And then you might try to say, well, Huntress, her power can outplay pallets. You know, she can get hits over pallets. Well, then you realize, well, Xenomorph can hit over pallets. He's 115. Dracula can hit over pallets. He's 115. Springtrap can hit over pallets. I guess he's 110 when he's holding his axe, but when he throws it, he's 115, if that makes sense. Nemesis can hit over pallets, but he's 115 always. Pyramid Head's 115 always. He can hit under pallets. So it's really not adding up. There is no through line here for these killer movement speeds. And you can try to use the dev's excuse for why a killer is 110, which is they want to encourage the killer to use their power more. Except Blight's 115, and he uses his power all the time. Trickster's 115, he uses his power all the time. Cenobite's 115, he uses his power all the time. Wesker's 115, he uses his power all the time. Every single 115 killer in the game uses their power. So again, doesn't make any sense at all. So you're just like, and this is what I did with my friend, because I put 2 people onto this game. And when they asked me why killer was 110, the answer I gave them was simply, I don't know. There is no reason. I legitimately told them that. There is no reason at all. I told them the devs don't know. The best content creators in the game, like Hens and Otsdarva, don't know. I don't know. They just made them 110 for whatever reason. That's it. There is no, like I said, there's no design philosophy, there's no through line, there's no logic to it. It just exists. It just exists, and that's all there is to it. And then you could apply the same exact thing to terror radiuses, right? So Wesker has a 40-meter terror radius. And is it because he moves fast? You know, because Blight also has a 40-meter terror radius. Billy has a 40-meter terror radius. But Blight and Billy are much faster than Wesker. So Wesker has a 40-meter terror radius because he can dash twice with his virulent bounce and move 26 meters. But then you got Nurse, who can also cover 26 meters with her blinks, and she's only got a 32-meter terror radius. And then you get to Huntress, and Huntress has a 20-meter terror radius. But she has a 45-meter lullaby. Because she's ranged, she has a 45-meter lullaby, and she has map-wide presence, but a 20-meter terror radius. But then you get to a stealth killer, and a stealth killer has a 24-meter terror radius. So why does a stealth killer have a 24-meter terror radius instead of 20? And they even tried to say that they tried to link terror radiuses with the killer's height. Well, the Huntress is in the tall category. She's one of the tallest killers in the game. She's got a 20-meter terror radius. And then you go back to Pig, who's one of the absolute shortest killers in the game. It says average, but no, she's very short. She has a 24-meter terror radius. And then you go to Sadako. She's short, 24-meter terror radius, so the same as Pig's. And then you go to Skull Merchant. Skull Merchant is taller than Pig and taller than Sadako. And Skull Merchant also has a 24-meter terror radius. So that's kind of my whole point. That's just what I wanted to talk about real quick in this video. Kind of the biggest problem I have in Dead by Daylight. And, you know, Dead by Daylight's been making some, you know, pretty big mistakes recently, but there is nothing when it comes to consistency. It's just, it feels like it's just, we throw whatever at the wall, and if it sticks, it sticks. We have quotas to meet. We have add-ons to make. You know, we have to have 2 ultra rares. We have to have 4 very rares. We have to have 5 of this. We have to have 20 add-ons in total. You know, and it's just like, not only does it confuse the players, it confuses themselves. And we just have no idea why things are the way they are, and we cannot even explain it to new people. So that's kind of just something I wanted to rant about real quick and talk about. I do not like the fact that this game has literally, there is no design philosophy at all whatsoever. And I wish there was. I wish it was something I could point to right across the board. I wish it was the case where all ranged killers were 110. Oh, I can tell my friend, oh, she's ranged, so she's 110. That's why. But nope. That's not true at all, because we have 115 range killers and we have 110 killers who aren't ranged. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. That does it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.